Hi, everyone. I'm Tracy Gazelle coming in live today on LinkedIn for the workshop about how to quiet your mind, feel calmer, and enjoy life more. And today's topic is how to quiet racing thoughts and how stress and tension are related to your state of mind. So we'll get right into that. And first of all, welcome to everyone who's watching live, and hi to everyone who's watching this on the replay. We had over 111 people sign up the last time I checked. So if you're watching live, drop a note in the comments and let me know where you're tuning in from. I always love to see where in the world everyone's coming from. I can see your comments, I believe, on this streaming platform. So at any time, you're welcome to drop a comment or a question in the comments under this event in LinkedIn, and I will see them in the streaming platform. So if we haven't met yet, I'm Tracy Gazelle. I'm a consultant, I'm a coach, I'm a #1 best-selling author, I'm a speaker, and LinkedIn just named me a top voice for stress management. So that's really exciting. I work with executives and leaders, and I help them to quiet their mind, feel calmer, enjoy life more. I help them step into their best self and to lead from that place. Because when you're leading from your best self, you're a better listener, a better communicator, you optimize your relationships. Everything just rolls along more smoothly when you're a leader, standing in your best self, leading from your calm center. And as well at home, you're a better father, wife, mother, father, husband, and you get to enjoy life more when you've accessed that space inside. So I'm not going to go deep into my background, my education, why I do what I do, but if you're interested in those things and learning more about me, just go to my LinkedIn profile page, and there is a replay recording from a previous workshop like this where I go deep into my background, and you can learn more about me there. Wonderful. So let's get right into it. So today we're talking about how to quiet racing thoughts and how stress and tension are related to your state of mind. So racing thoughts are a very common, not I don't want to say a problem, but an issue that I hear from so many of my clients and people I connect with on LinkedIn. So of course, racing thoughts are when your thoughts are going a million miles a minute and you're looking for that off switch. You can't seem to find how to slow them down, how to stop them. It might not seem like such an issue at work, but in the evening when you go home, you might find you want to turn work off at the end of the day. You want to be present with your loved ones. You want to sit with your children, your grandchildren, and be present with them. But in the background, you have these thoughts that never seem to stop. Neuroscience estimates that we think from 50,000 to 70,000 thoughts per day. That's a lot of thoughts, and I believe 60% of those was the number that are recycled from yesterday. So 60% of those thoughts are on repeat, and we continue thinking those things day after day after day, just kind of stuck in the back of our brain. And so how to start quieting them? Well, the first step then is to start to realize that you are not your thoughts. So those thoughts that we're so used to thinking and living in and day out, they form our beliefs, our values, our perspective. They narrate our experience. They remind us of the past, and they want us to plan for the future. And our thoughts do a lot of things, and they talk about a lot of things, and we get very used to living inside of them. But you are not your thoughts. You are the one who is noticing your thoughts. So Eckhart Tolle calls this the silent observer. So if you've been to one of my talks before, you know that I have a background in psychology and neuroscience, and then I also like to weave in philosophy. I like to weave in some of the ancient texts from Taoism, Vedanta, Buddhism into modern day psychology, mindfulness, neuroscience, meditation, because it is really all one, different takes on the same thing. So, leaning more on the philosophy side here, when I say that you are not your thoughts, you are the one who is noticing your thoughts, you're observing your thoughts. And Eckhart Tolle, as I mentioned, calls that the silent observer because it's silent, as in it's simply sitting back and noticing. So, imagine that this space, the silent observer, is the background to your experience. Imagine that this silent observer is sitting on a park bench, sitting in front of a pond and watching everything happen in the pond. It is the quiet space inside of you that's always there. Your silent observer is the space that meditators access when they meditate, but you don't have to meditate to access it. So I'm just giving so many different examples because I find if I share so many different ways of how to do this, different ways of saying different ways of saying it resonate with different people. So notice what sits well with you. And also, while I'm saying this, if you can, if you're able to give this your full attention, I know it's during the workday and I appreciate your time watching this, but if you're able to give it your full attention, closing down tabs, not looking at emails, putting your phone down, and just really giving yourself this time to listen and see what resonates with you, see what you can pull from it so that you learn something today that can truly change the trajectory of your life. That's how an insight works. You learn something and it changes you, and you see the world differently from hearing one thing. And this was my one thing that changed my life when I heard it, when I was working as a meditation teacher on the side while I was working in my corporate healthcare position. I heard this one thing that changed me because it was an insight that changed me from within and changed the way that I saw the world, and I was never the same. And what I heard was that we all have a calm center inside of us. It's always quiet, it's always content, it's always peaceful, and it can never be taken from you. It can never be broken. You can't lose it, you can't wreck it. There's nothing you can do to change it. And there's nothing anyone else can do to change it. It's always there inside of you, 24/7. It's available to you. And all that we do innocently, this is from Sydney Banks, is we think ourselves away from it. So for me, I was at the time, as I mentioned, teaching meditation on the side of my corporate healthcare job. And when I would meditate, I would feel absolutely amazing. But then I would go to the rest of my day and I would feel anxious, stressed. I'd have racing thoughts. I'd feel tense. I'd feel annoyed, frustrated, judgmental, all those things. And then meditation was like this wonderful place I could go to for maybe 10 minutes a day and feel okay. But the rest of the day, even as a meditation teacher, I was anxious, stressed, overwhelmed. Discontent, restless is a good word for it. It was like I was running around a bit like a chicken with my head cut off, just running around, rushing, never feeling like I could relax, just very restless. But then when I heard that insight that changed me and really started the business that I do that I now help executives with, is that we all have that calm center inside of us. So that space we access when we meditate, it's always there, even when we're not meditating. It's always there. We're always calm, content, quiet, and peaceful inside. And then we get distracted with our thinking. That's it. And so the more that we're thinking and the faster our thoughts are going with those racing thoughts, the farther we get from that calm center. And the rate of our thinking, so how fast the thoughts are looping through our brain, which my brain can really get going fast. I think those of us that are kind of type A and very driven and ambitious, we tend to be those racing thoughts and always doing the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. But the rate of our thinking, how fast our thoughts are going, is directly related to how rushed we feel in life, how calm and content we feel, or how discontent we feel is a reflection of the rate of our thinking. So those racing thoughts, our thoughts are part of life, but racing thoughts can be a habit because we get used to living in that world all the time. We get used to operating at that speed. And maybe it's been helpful with accomplishing a lot in a short period of time or being successful in your career. But there often comes a time I find with my clients and people I connect with where they wonder, well, I don't want to go this fast anymore. I want to slow down. I'm having a hard time finding peace and contentment. I've worked so hard my whole life and I just want to slow down and enjoy it. And why can't I turn off these racing thoughts? So to turn off the racing thoughts, as we said, is to first notice that you are not your thoughts. You are the one who is noticing your thoughts. And as you start to create that bit of separation from yourself and your thoughts, you start to look at them from that third person point of view. So, this is when we start to go into the mindfulness conversation. So, if you have experience with mindfulness, you know that it's wonderful. I'm glad it's so big in the world. It's almost a viral topic. Mindfulness is noticing your thinking, noticing your bodily sensations, noticing, oh, my shoulders are a little tense today. Oh, I have a headache today. Oh, my thoughts are a little heavy and depressed today. It's noticing your experience from that third person point of view, which is wonderful. And then I like to go one step deeper than that. So, one step deeper than mindfulness, one step deeper than neuroscience, one step deeper than psychology, because those are all describing the world and our experience and our behaviors and our personalities and all those things that we um, experience through life, our reality. But one step deeper means sinking further back into that space of the silent observer who's noticing your thoughts. And that space is that calm center. That is that space that's always quiet, content, and peaceful. So rather than needing to solve the racing thoughts, the racing thoughts like to be stuck on repeat and looping over and over and over again. And it's often a sign that we're in this part of our brain, just behind the forehead, the prefrontal cortex. It's sometimes called the analyzer or the executive brain. It's what separates us from the animal kingdom. This part of the brain was the most recent addition to our brain in evolution. It was only added to the human brain in the last 100,000 years. And it allows us to analyze, and it allows us to go into the future and go into the past and to think about our thinking and try and plan for things. All that stuff where we get stuck in our racing thoughts, it really happens here. And it's interesting that animals don't have that part of their brain. So I have two cats and I love dogs too. Our dog passed away, but I love all animals. And it's interesting to look at your pets if you have a pet at home and just notice how content they are. They don't seem to be stuck in racing thoughts, right? They're just sitting there like my cats. They're just when they're having a nap, they're having a nap. And when they're in the backyard, they're just enjoying the flowers. Right? So they're so present and they don't have that part of the brain where we get stuck in being overly analytical, getting stuck in racing thoughts. So if you notice yourself getting stuck in racing analytical thoughts, the first step is to notice and to also not judge yourself for it. If it's been a habit for you this long in life, as many of us have had, just notice it. It's nothing you've done wrong. It's wonderful that you're noticing it now. Right? There's no time like the present. It's wonderful that you are making this choice now to notice it and to make a change. That's the important thing to focus on. And then from there, recognizing that it's not about solving the content of your racing thoughts so that they can be quiet. That's another thing we like to do is recognize what our racing thoughts are talking about and thinking, oh, well, that's what I need to fix. That's what I need to solve. That's what I need to work on. And once that's done, then I can slow down and relax and get quiet. I don't know about you, that's never worked for me in the past. Has that worked for you? I'm assuming not. It's because this part of the brain, again, it likes to solve problems. It likes to be running through issues day in, day out, over and over. It might even wake you up in the night. It's very common. I talk to people all the time. Just talking to someone this morning where they get woken up at 2 a.m. and it's running, and then they can't go back to sleep. So it likes to run through problems, and then if there's no problem to solve, it likes to look for problems to solve. And it likes to almost create problems, and then you might find yourself watching the news We're scrolling through social media and hearing about something terrible that happened, and then it's like it sparks something in you. Oh, I never thought about that before. Is that something I have to think about? Is that something I have to plan for? And it just starts looking for new problems to solve. So that's just the way that the brain works, and it's wanting to help us survive. It's wanting to help us live. It's wanting to help us not be in danger. It's doing its job, but it's almost like it gets stuck. It gets stuck in overdrive. And so rather than attending to what the racing thoughts are about and trying to solve all those issues in life that are constantly running through our head, that's actually not what we need to do to quiet the racing thoughts. Instead, it's about loosening the grip that we have on our thoughts and knowing that just because you're thinking about something doesn't mean that you have to listen to it. I'm going to say that again. Just because you're thinking about something doesn't mean that you have to listen to it. And this starts the process of starting to quiet your racing thoughts. And it's by redirecting your focus, your attention from the content of your thinking instead to the space of your quiet center that's always observing. So the next thing everyone asks me is how? What's the tool? What's the technique? What's the strategy? How do I do it? Here's the trick though. There is no technique, there is no strategy because that would be more thinking. That would be more thinking about thinking, and what we actually want is less thinking. It's similar to positive thinking, or trying to reframe our thoughts, or trying to make the most out of a bad, situation kind of thing. Like, oh, I'm having these dark thoughts, these dark racing thoughts. I need to think positive. That's actually adding more fuel to the fire because then you're just laying positive thinking on top of the negative thinking on top of the other thinking. And so, what this is actually about is loosening your grip on all thought and falling back into the quiet space of your mind that's always calm, content, and peaceful, and it's always there. And it's a lot of, I can, usually the next question people ask me that I'm just going to answer is, well, can I still work? If I'm not thinking all the time, how do I take care of everything? How do I remember what I'm working on? How do I make sure I don't miss anything? I get asked that a lot. What I'm going to miss something if I'm not thinking about it all the time. It's interesting that's actually not the case. As you retreat back more into that quiet space of your mind, you access a different way of thinking. It doesn't mean that you are less attentive, less focused, less productive. It means that you are more focused. Your focus is sharpened because you've cut down on the mental noise. So you still do everything that needs to be done. You're still productive at work. You're actually more productive at work because you have less mental noise up there. And you're able to be doing what you do 100% without the chatter in the background. And so the best time to practice this way of quieting racing thoughts is at home, right? Because at work, there's a lot going on and we're in our head a lot, and that's another conversation. But I find this impacts people the most is when they're at home and they're wanting to be present. They're wanting to turn work off. They're wanting to be there with their spouse or their kids or their grandkids. And so the next time that you're at home, maybe tonight, this evening, when you're home from work and you're wanting to turn off racing thoughts, practice imagining that your racing thoughts are like a radio playing in the other room. And maybe that radio is a little loud. Maybe the music is a little, not your taste. Maybe there's radio DJs on and they're just talking about annoying things that are very superficial and make no sense. Maybe you don't like what's on the radio, but that's okay. You don't have to listen to it. So practice tuning it out. Practice recognizing that your thoughts are running and there's a lot on your mind, but just letting it be there, not listening to it, not acting on it, not engaging with your thinking. Because how it works is a thought comes into your head. It's almost like there's this treadmill of thoughts that come into your head all day, even in the night, right? We can't stop the treadmill, but there's this treadmill of thoughts coming in. And then you get to choose which thoughts you feed with your attention. And if you pay attention to them and you start listening to them and then thinking about them and analyzing and then going back to like, oh yeah, oh that, and then adding to them, it grows and it becomes this kind of big hairy thing that seems like it's out of our control. And that it's overwhelming. And then the next thing you know, you're sitting at home wanting to play with your kids, but you're not really there because you're so up here. So then the key is to choose which thoughts you give your attention to. And you're already doing this. By the way, you already know how to do this. So let me give you an example. I'm aware of the time here already. Time goes by so fast when I talk about these things. Have you ever gone to get on an airplane? And just as you're boarding the airplane, have you thought to yourself, I wonder if this plane's going to crash today? Like, I wonder if it's going to go down in a fiery blaze and everyone's going to die and I'm going to die and I'm not going to see my family again. It sounds terrible to say out loud, but I'm willing to bet. Have you thought that before? I know I have. I've gotten on an airplane and thought, I wonder if this is going to crash today. But if you're like me and like most people, you have that thought and then you probably say to yourself, oh, that's strange. It's very unlikely. Like, I'm not worried. It's unlikely that's going to happen. And then phoom, the thought is gone, right? And so in that way, you're already doing it. You already have some thoughts that pop into your awareness, and then you already just let them go naturally. And by the way, the other end of that spectrum, there's a small percentage of people who have that thought about the plane crashing, and then they feed that thought with their attention. And then they start saying, oh, maybe it is going to go down. Oh, no, what's going to happen? Oh, it's going to be terrible. And then they're the ones on the flight that have the anxiety about flying and they're white knuckling the armrest and they're making all those noises and they're just freaking out. That's an example of people who grab a thought and then they don't let it go. And then they just spin out about it. Right. And we all have the capacity and the capability to choose which thought we act on. It doesn't seem like it because we've over time developed beliefs and habits and how we believe the world operates, but at its core, it's true. We all are getting these 50,000 to 70,000 thoughts per day, and then we're choosing on a very deep subconscious level which ones we listen to or not, which ones we believe to be true. So, in the same way that you already have thoughts you're letting go of, I'll give you one more example. A boring thought. I like to say a boring thought is a thought about a potato. Like, how often do you think about potatoes? I love eating potatoes, but I don't think about them that much. It's a thought that maybe pops into my head and I let it go, right? I'm not thinking about potatoes a lot. So, in the same way, any thought can be like that, where you let it go. Oh, the plane's not going to crash. I'm going to be fine. Pew, out. Oh, potato, out. Pew. But then those racing thoughts we get, the reason that they race and the reason that they seem sticky and they get stuck in our brain and then we feel like we can't get them out and get control of them, it's because we've given them this meaning. We've given them what the content is about. Maybe it's about work, something happening in your personal life, something that like cuts deep. We've given it this meaning that it's important, it's this big deal, and that we have to keep mulling it over and thinking about it, and thinking about it, and thinking about it, and thinking about it. We get stuck in racing thoughts. But the good news is it doesn't have to stay there. It's still just a thought. Like there is no hierarchy of thoughts. There isn't potatoes at the bottom, and then I'm not going to die in a plane crash in the middle, and then like work and finances and my relationship at the top, and those are harder to get rid of. There's no hierarchy of thoughts. They're all the same. They're all neutral. So if you can let go of one, you can let go of another. It's cool. It just takes some practice. And so those racing thoughts are just thoughts that you have given importance to, that you have deemed as You need to think about them a lot and give them your attention and figure them out, but it doesn't have to stay that way. And maybe they are important topics, but I'm guessing that you're watching this because you don't want to be stuck in racing thoughts about them. Because there's a difference between attending to something important in life and then thinking about it a million times before you act on it. And what I would love to talk about another day when there's more time is the ability to make a decision on those big life events. There are two different streams. The one is in your busy thinking mind, thinking about it a million times. And the other way is getting quiet and accessing your own innate wisdom, your gut instincts, your instincts for life, just like how animals have instincts. We have instincts that help us make these really big decisions, but we can't access them when our minds are so busy. That's a conversation for another day. Um, but I to help you wrap this up, and by the way, if anyone has questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. I'd love to answer your questions live, or if it's a personal question, um, you can send me a message privately on LinkedIn. But basically, it's recognizing that you are not your thoughts, and so continuing to practice letting them go by not engaging with them. And as you don't give them your attention, they do slide through, something else comes in their place. But if you think about it, where do thoughts go when we're not thinking about them? Right? Those big, hairy thoughts that we have that seem to be all encompassing. Say you're thinking about something, you're feeling kind of stressed from work, but then a friend calls on the phone or you go for lunch with somebody, and then it's almost like it's not bothering you in that moment. That's just because the thought isn't in your head. And where do those thoughts go when we're not thinking about them? Nobody knows. Neuroscience, psychology, as far as I know, they don't know where thoughts go. They're just this temporary construct. And so if we're stuck in racing thoughts, all that we need to do is release our grip on the thoughts that we're holding on to so tightly. So tonight, when you get home from work, try an experiment, practice this, where you treat your racing thoughts as a radio playing in the other room, and you don't have to give them your attention. It can help to take deep breaths. Something in Buddhism they do is they say, "Can you feel your feet?" Right? Turning your focus to your feet. Or if you're playing with your children, focusing on the game you're playing with them. And the thoughts will keep coming, especially when you're just starting this. They'll keep coming up and keep grabbing you. And that's okay. You just keep continuing to practice letting go. And I'm still working on it too, right? Like they keep grabbing me, but the ones that are causing me stress and that I'm getting stuck in, it's a practice of letting them go. I see some questions. Oh, hey, James. Nice to have you here. Grounding to earth is important to balance our busy digital mind. Yes, 100%. Taking breaks from technology and the digital world. And I love being outside in nature as well. It's such a nice way to ground. And you also say time is the only value we should worry about harmonizing with unified actions. Yes. Time is another large conversation, though, isn't it, James? I'm sure you know all about this. Time being a construct. So that could be a large conversation about time being the only value. Unless you're saying being present. Unless you're saying time is something that can be spent but we can never get it back. And to enjoy the time we have, I think. Is that what you're saying, James? The only value we should worry about is how we want to spend our time. And if that's the case, I completely agree with you. Thanks for being on live, James, and thanks to everyone who's watching live, and thanks to everyone on the replay as well. If you'd like to have a conversation with me, I love going deep, and every month I offer 2 free executive coaching sessions. So 1 free coaching session to 2 of my LinkedIn connections. And it's just a great way to meet my network and go deeper into this conversation. And I love building my business through word of mouth and meeting more people all around the world. So if you would like to take me up on one of those free sessions, just send me a message on LinkedIn. I would love to connect with you and go deeper into this and help apply this to your life. Yeah, James says only thing we can own. Yeah, with time. Yeah, that's right. Even I'm not sure if we can own time because we we die with nothing, right? We come into this world with nothing and we leave with nothing. Can't take anything with us. Yeah. So thanks so much for watching and looking forward to seeing you again on LinkedIn. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Have a great rest of your day.